So I did a little bit better this month compared to last month. It's finally time for my July wrap-up and my August TBR. And this month I ended up reading 5 books, which is 1 book more than I've read for like the past couple of months. So if you've been keeping up with my wrap-ups for the past like I think maybe 3 months, I've been reading 4 books per month, just like very consistently. And that's not a bad number at all, and that's definitely like a really good like 1 book per week sort of deal. But I have been wanting to get through more of my TBR. It's just been so frustrating. I feel like it's really overwhelming, and so I've just been wanting to like kind of get to reading a bit more, and it felt so much more motivating just to kind of like get to read 5 books this month compared to 4. I know that's like not a huge difference, but it feels a lot better to me, and I feel so much more motivated coming into August and trying to read like literally as many books as possible. So the first book I read this month is one I've talked about in a vlog and I think a couple other videos, and that is Beneath the Citadel by Destiny Soraya, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and I absolutely loved it so much. This is basically a fantasy novel that follows I think 4 friends. Yeah, it follows 4 friends and 1 estranged friend. So it's multiple perspectives, and every chapter follows a different character, and all of the characters are so well developed. They're so complex and layered, and I really love that about this book. It's definitely a huge character-driven novel. So if you like fantasy books that are very character driven, you might really enjoy this book. But if you're looking for something that's more plot driven, then you might not really like this book. Because for me, where I took that 1 star off was basically because I felt like the plot wasn't really reaching its full potential. I think for me, I would have liked to see this become a duology. Not necessarily like a trilogy or anything further than that, but definitely a duology would have fit this book so well. I felt like it would have given it so much more room to explore the world and the plot better. But with just being 1 book for all of these characters, it felt like it wasn't giving them enough room to explore each character and explore each plot point. And not necessarily that the book was rushed at all, it just felt like it was 1 snapshot of this fantasy world and not something super immersive or expansive. And not necessarily that every fantasy book has to be that way, but I would have wanted to kind of like know more about the world and explore more of the world, and definitely explore more of these character relationships, because we didn't really get a lot of that in this book. A lot of the book is actually kind of going into the past and kind of explaining past relationships and how they ended up being where they are today, which is fine, and I really enjoyed that. But I feel like if it would have been a duology, it would have been like just so much more in depth, and it would have really given the characters the time they deserved. And overall, I really enjoyed this book more than her debut, which was Iron Cast, and I think I gave that a 2 or 3 stars. So I didn't totally hate it, but it just wasn't really my favorite, and it took me forever to finish that one. But this one was definitely a book that I actually really enjoyed, and I love the characters. And now I'm also really excited to see whatever else Destiny Soraya has in the future. The next book I read is definitely one of my favorites for the year, and that is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. I literally don't have anything to say about it that would be negative or like, oh, maybe they should fix this, or oh, maybe they should have fixed that. No, I loved this book so much. It gave me so much joy. I really loved reading this book. Like, I genuinely actually enjoyed reading this book, which that makes it sound like I don't enjoy reading, but like, I feel like sometimes it's just kind of like, oh, I'm really enjoying this book, it's fun to read, but it's not like, oh my god, I need to read this. I need to like, I have this like desperate need to read a book. And with this book, it was like, I did not want to put it down. I wanted to read it constantly. I loved being in this world, and I loved being in Felix's head. I just really found this book to be super enjoyable. There's definitely some trigger warnings for things like outing and dead naming and also blackmail. So just be aware of that when you're going into this book. And it does follow a trans main character, and Felix is trying to figure out exactly how they identify. And I really love the exploration of gender in this book. I feel like I don't read a lot of books about trans main characters, but I definitely want to read more of them. And I just really loved reading about Felix and their journey with their gender. So I just really enjoyed it. I absolutely recommend it to everybody. If you're looking for a fun but also super serious contemporary that kind of deals with both like really light aspects and also really deep aspects, then I definitely recommend this book, and I enjoyed it so so much, and I feel like a lot of other people are really going to enjoy it as well. And the next book that I read was a nonfiction book, and that is I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness, and that's by Austen Channing Brown. And I loved this book so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this book, mainly because it was so different than the book that I had read in June, and that was Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. And I found this one to be different in 2 aspects, mainly because this one was talking about American racism, and this one was also showing the intersection of race and religion. So I found that to be really interesting as well, because Austen Channing Brown is Christian, and that definitely influences the way that she experiences race and that she experiences racism. So I really enjoyed that aspect, both of those aspects actually. And I found this book to be super easy to read, and I really love Austen's voice. I loved getting to hear all about her life and all of her experiences, and I also just found her writing style to be super engaging as well. So I really enjoyed this book. I completely recommend it if you're looking for any anti-racist reading, and I just loved it. And I can't wait to read anything else that she puts out. And if you have any more recommendations for anti-racist books, then leave them down below, because I am always looking for more. I have a bunch on my Kindle or on my iPad, and I'm always looking for more kinds of books like that. So just like leave them all down below and I'll check them out. The next book I read was actually a poetry collection, and that is Letters to the Lost by Mckayla Debonis, and I loved it so much. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I always enjoy her poetry collections, and this one I got to read as like an advanced reader's copy, so I was super thrilled when she asked me to read it early, and I loved it so much. I always love how meaningful and personal her stories are throughout all of her poetry, and I really love how her poetry collections have such a perfect cohesion to them, because sometimes I read poetry collections and there's just no cohesion or structure to them, and it just gets to be kind of jumbled and like all over the place. But with Mckayla's poetry collections, I feel like there's always cohesion, there's always like a beginning, middle, and end. You can totally follow through the whole poetry collection and see where she's going and see the kind of story that she's trying to tell. And I really love how she formatted this poetry collection in particular, because basically there's like a letter to someone that she's lost, and then a few poems, you know, kind of relating to that letter and to that person, and then it moves on to another person, and then it moves on to another person. So I really loved both of those aspects, and if you're looking for a really deep and meaningful poetry collection, then I 100% recommend this one. And basically I recommend really any of Mckayla's poetry collections. They're all really great. And then the very last book that I read for this month was actually a buddy read, and that is Mirage by Samaya Daud. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was such a fun like sci-fi / fantasy book, and I just super enjoyed it. I really loved the main character. I thought that Amani was a really fun main character to follow, and I actually enjoyed one of the side characters, like one of the more main side characters the most, and that's Meram. I loved Meram so much. I can 100% relate to Meram. I just wish that she had had her own perspective, because I would have loved to read that, but I did really enjoy Amani as well. So I really loved this book. I thought the writing was beautiful. I thought the plot was really well paced. I also loved the love interest, which was kind of surprising because I'd kind of come into this book being like, I really hope I don't hate the love interest. I really hope he's not totally bland and like boring, but I really enjoyed him, and I thought that the chemistry between him and Amani was really good. And I don't know, I just love this book. I cannot wait for the sequel. I already have it pre-ordered, so it's coming, and I just had a lot of fun buddy reading it with like a bunch of different people, and I feel like this was like my most successful buddy read so far. Even though it totally didn't go as planned, it was still pretty successful, and I did finish the book and I loved it. Okay, so those were all of the books that I've read in July. I think I had a really great reading month. You know, nothing was really like a miss for me. It was all just really like 4 and 5 stars, which is so much fun. And now we're gonna get into my August TBR. So I've actually finished a book already. It was a novella, and that was Becoming the Dark Prince. And that's a novella part of the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco, which if you know me, it's one of my all-time favorite series like ever. I just love those books so much. I love the characters, I love Thomas Cresswell, and I love Audrey Rose. So this novella had been kind of sitting in my Kindle for quite a while. Ever since it came out, I literally bought it the day it came out. and I just hadn't read it. I hadn't even like wanted to read it, and I was staying up late one night and I was just like, you know what, I really want to read it. It's kind of short, it's around like 90 pages, and so I'm just gonna read it. And I did, and I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I love Thomas Cresswell. I love his character. I love the way that he interacts with Audrey Rose. I love them together. They have such great chemistry, and I really loved kind of getting more of an insight to the way that his mind works, because we really don't get his perspective in any of the books. So it was super nice to have his perspective in this one, and I loved him. And it just seemed like Carrie Maniscalco had so much fun writing him. You could just like really tell from like the entire novella. It was just like adorable. I don't know, I loved it. It was like kind of like angsty at first, and then really, really adorable and sweet, and I just loved it. And then I have a couple of things on my Kindle that I want to read. Currently, I'm in the middle of Loveyzona by Romina Garber, and I am loving it so much. I'm over 30% of the way through. I really want to finish it today because it comes out tomorrow, which is August 4th. And I am really enjoying this. I was really surprised because it is about werewolves, and I am not a werewolf person. I do not like werewolves. I don't like reading about them. Don't like watching TV shows about them. It's just not my cup of tea. However, I got an ARC for Loveyzona, and I was just so excited to read it. So I am really glad that I have it as an ARC on my iPad, and I'm really enjoying it. The writing is so beautiful. I'm like seriously highlighting almost every single page. It's gorgeous. And then I think that the other book that I'm going to read on my iPad is going to be The Only Good Indians. I did get the ebook for that one on my iPad, and that is by Stephen Graham Jones, I'm pretty sure. I know it's a thriller. I don't really read thrillers, but I've heard some really great things about this book, so I'm very intrigued to read it. And then moving on to some of my physical books, one of them I want to read is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. And this was definitely going to go on my TBR anyway, but after the whole reading rush thing, I was like, you know what, I need to read it. I need to like put it on my TBR definitely. So here it is. I'm super excited to read it. I think I'm really going to enjoy it, and I know so many people who have the same reading taste as me also have really enjoyed it, so I'm excited. The next 3 are books that I'm actually currently reading, and this one is Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. I was reading it last month, did not finish it, but I'm currently 117 pages into it. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really liking all of like the different perspectives. I feel like the world building is really good, and I really love the writing as well, so I'm super excited to finish this one. And I actually don't know when the sequel comes out, so that makes me a little nervous, but I mean, who knows, we'll see. The next one is a historical fiction, and that is The Glittering Hour by Iona Gray, and I am currently on page 43 of this book. I'm really enjoying it. The beginning was a little bit slow because it wasn't really what I was expecting, but it did start to pick up when it switched characters, and I'm really enjoying it. So we're gonna see how this one goes. The next one is a contemporary, and that is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And recently Leah Johnson quote retweeted one of my Taylor Swift tweets, and I just about died. So I was super excited when this book finally came in the mail, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm currently 59 pages into this book, and it's super adorable. I'm really loving it. A really cute contemporary. So moving on to my TBR cart, I have quite a few books on here that I'm hoping to read very soon, or like at least this month. So the 2 books that I really want to read from my TBR cart that I'm like giving the most priority is definitely, first of all, Wayward Witch by Zoraida Cordova. I was supposed to read this book last month. I didn't get to it, but it comes out in August, so I really, really want to read it before it comes out. So hopefully I'll get to this one soon. And then I also really, really want to get to The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I am super excited to get to this book. I actually talked about it on my Instagram, and people were interested in me making a vlog about it, so hopefully I can vlog myself reading this book and kind of give my thoughts and opinions. Really, really excited. I think that this is kind of a villain origin story. It might be kind of more of like a morally gray hero origin story, if that makes any sense. But either way, I'm still really excited about this book, and I cannot wait to see what all the hype is about. I feel like I've heard everybody talking about this book lately, and it sounds so good, so I'm very, very excited. Alright, so those were all of the books that I read in July and all of the books I'm hoping to read in August, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below in the comments what books that you read in July and what books that you're looking forward to reading in August. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Ooh, I thought it'd be me and you.